Welcome all to the second part of Law of Seas. First we will see internal waters. Covers all water or waterways on the landward side of the baseline. The coastal state is free to set laws, regulate its use and the use of any resource. Foreign vessels have no right of passage within the internal waters. It includes waterways such as rivers and canals and sometimes the water within the small bays. In inland waters, the sovereignty of the state is equal to that which it exercises on the mainland. The coastal state is free to make laws relating to the internal waters or regulate any use or use of its resources. In the absence of the agreement to the contrary, foreign vessel have no right to passage within the internal waters, and this is the lack of right to an innocent passage. It is the key difference between internal waters and territorial waters. The archipelagic waters within the outermost island of the archipelagic state are treated as internal waters, with the exception that innocent passage must be allowed, although the archipelagic state may designate certain sea lanes in their water levels. When a foreign vessel is authorized to enter an island water, it is subjected to the laws of the coastal state, with one exception. The crew of the ship is subject to the law of the flag state. This extends to labor condition as well as to the crimes committed on board of the ship, even if they are docked at the port. Offence committed in the harbour or the crimes committed there by the crew of a foreign vessel always falls under the jurisdiction of the coastal state. The coastal state can intervene in the ship affairs when the master of the vessel requires the intervention of the local authorities, when there is a danger to the peace and security of the coastal state, or to enforce the custom rules. Territorial sea. It is simply water adjacent to the state's coast and subjected to its sovereignty. That area of the sea immediately adjacent to the shores of the state, subjected to territorial jurisdiction of the state as defined under 1982 United Nations Convention on Law of Sea, is a belt of coastal water extending to the most of the 12 nautical miles, that is 22.2 kilometer or 13.8 miles from the baseline. Usually this means low water mark of the coastal state. The territorial sea is regarded as the sovereign territory of the state, although foreign ships, that is civilians, are allowed to the innocent passage through it or transit passage for straits. This sovereignty also extends to the airspace over and seabed that is below. The term territorial water is also sometimes used informally to refer to any area of water over which the state has jurisdiction, including the internal water and the contiguous zone, the exclusive economic zone and potentially the continental shelf. Article 3. The breadth of territorial sea. Every state has the right to establish the breadth of its territorial sea up to the limit not exceeding 12 nautical miles measured from the baseline, determined in accordance with this convention. Article 4. The outer limit of the territorial sea. The outer limit of the territorial sea is a line, every point of which is the distance from the nearest point of the baseline equal to the breadth of the territorial sea. Territorial sea is the area water adjacent to the coast which the coastal state is permitted by international law to exercise sovereign competence for purpose of three things. First, jurisdiction, control, exploitation. Sovereign territory where seabed, water column or airspace. Here Article 2 subclause 3 says the sovereignty over a territorial sea is exercised subjected to the convention and to the other rules of international law. Breadth up to 12 nautical miles except to other states is the right of innocent passage but subjected to certain condition. Passage is characterized as innocent passage if it is not prejudicial to the interest of coastal state. Innocent passage is characterized with the moving purposes. Now we will see breadth up to 12 nautical miles. Exception to other states is the right of innocent passage, but subjected to certain condition. Passage is characterized as innocent passage if it is not prejudicial to the interest of coastal state. Innocent passage is characterized with moving purposefully. What is innocent passage? Right of a foreign ship pass through the territorial waters of a coastal state so long as the passage does not interfere with the prejudice that state's good order, peace or security. Article 19 states the meaning of innocent passage. Passage is innocent so long as it is not prejudicial to the peace, good order or security of the coastal state. Such passage shall take place in conformity with this convention and with the other rules of international law. Now we will see innocent passage. Continuous, expeditious transit through territorial waters or internal waters en route to and from the high seas. Article 19(1). Passage is innocent so long as it is not prejudicial to the peace, good order or security of the coastal state. Non-innocent passage may be prevented. Submarines must transit on the surface and show their flag according to Article 20. No right of over the flight may be temporarily suspended. Emergency issue, hazardous vessels, warships, right of innocent passage, prior notification or permission that needs to be obtained during specific conditions. Now we will see contiguous zone. Contiguous zone is a band of water extending from the outer edge of the territorial sea up to 24 nautical miles, which is 44.4 km or 27.6 miles from the baseline. A state can exert limited control for the purpose of preventing or punishing infringement of its custom, fiscal, immigration or sanitary law and regulation within the territory or territorial sea. This will typically be 12 nautical miles wide but could be more if the state has chosen to claim territorial waters of less than 12 nautical miles or less if it would otherwise overlap another state's contiguous zone. However, the territorial sea, there is no standard rule for resolving such conflict and the state in question must negotiate with their own compromise with the neighboring state. Now if you see the contiguous zone, this 12 to 24 nautical miles which overlaps the exclusive economic zone. Foreign aircraft have overflight rights. Foreign vessels have full navigational, fishing and maritime scientific research rights so long as they are not infringing the custom, fiscal, immigration, sanitation law or assuming no exclusive economic zone declared for the latter rights, which extends to the territorial sea enforcement. If you see Article 33, it prevents the infringement of its custom, fiscal, immigration or sanitary law and regulation within the territory or the territorial sea. Now we will see exclusive economic zone, an area on the coastal water and seabed within a certain distance of country's coastline to which the country claims exclusively rights for fishing, drilling or other economic activities. Here, it extends not more than 200 nautical miles from the territorial sea baseline and it is adjacent to the 12 nautical miles of the territorial sea. Beyond its territorial waters, every coastal country may establish its exclusive economic zone extending up to 200 nautical miles, which is 370 kilometers from the shore baseline. Within the exclusive economic zone, the coastal state has the right to exploit and regulate fisheries, construct artificial islands, installations or use of zone for other economic purpose, example, generation of energy from the waves, regulate scientific research for both flora and fauna, or by foreign vessel or otherwise foreign vessels or aircraft are entitled to move freely through and over this zone. Within the exclusive economic zone of the coastal state, the sovereign rights for the purpose of exploring, exploiting, conserving, managing natural resources, whether living or non-living, of the seabed and subsoil and the super-adjacent waters, and with regard to other activities for economic exploitation or exploration of the zone, such as production of energy from the water currents and winds. Jurisdiction as provided for international and domestic laws with regard to establishment and use of artificial island installations, structures, marine scientific research, and protection and preservation of marine environment, and other rights and duties provided for under international and domestic law. Now we will see continental shelf, which is defined under Article 76. Continental shelf of a coastal state comprises of the seabed or subsoil of the submarine area that extend beyond its territorial sea throughout the natural prolongation of the land territory to the outer edge of the continental margin. This may distance up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline from which the breadth of the territorial sea is measured, where the outer edge of the continental margin does not extend up to that distance. Continental shelf is an underwater land mass which extends to a continent, resulting in an area of relatively shallow water known as the shelf sea. When you see Article 77, the right of the coastal state over the continental shelf, there are 3 points. The coastal state exercises over the continental shelf sovereign rights for the purpose of exploring it and exploiting its natural resources. The rights referred to in Para 1 are exclusive in the sense that its coastal state does not explore the continental shelf or exploit its natural resources. No one may undertake these activities without the express consent of the coastal state. The rights of the coastal state over the continental shelf do not depend on the occupation, effective or notional, or on any express proclamation.